How's it going, everybody? It's Jeff Main with Team Real in the Blues. Well, we've got everything done. I just finished building this Splashwell. I had to do a little bit of shaping on it. I'll probably post a video about it pretty soon. But the next step, I put it up here and I marked where the Splashwell is. And you can see the original Splashwell would have been right here because I actually elevated the whole thing. I had to do a little stretching, a little metal work, but I got the Splashwell to where it dropped down. You can see where the line is. It dropped down right there. Now it's time to put the Splashwell drain. This is going to be a real shallow Splashwell, as you can tell. So you're not going to get a whole lot of water up here, but whatever water you get up here, it'd be a good idea to get it out there as quick as you can. Well, since I had that thing and I stretched it towards down, I'm going to put it right here in the center. Now I know the motor bolts right here, but there's actually a void in that clamp that bolts on here big enough for water to drain out. And like I say, I ain't gonna get a whole lot of water. As for gallons, I'll probably get a lot of water splashed over it just because it's a Splashwell, but it ain't like it's gonna have 20 gallons of water sitting back here. I might get 3 or 4 gallons tops before it would run over the top anyway, since I elevated it. But the simplest way to do this, and I'm gonna tell you, you can go back by putting the brass ones, you know, the inch and a quarter. I've even seen them up to like 1.5 inches. I don't need nothing that big. I need just a standard 1-inch drain here. You can take and get the brass ones, and they're a little bit more aggravating, but essentially the first part of this process is the same way. What you do is you just mark it, get it as close to center as you can, or to your lowest point. Normally you'd have one on each side, but get it marked where it's literally right at the transom line. Get it marked right there. Go ahead and drill your pilot hole through and then drill your hole for it. If you're using the brass ones, you can actually order the tool that's used to flatten it out on both sides. And it's not that hard, but you have to order the tool and you have to go through a little bit more of a process getting it right, cutting it off the right length and all that stuff. But what I use is I just use these. I've used these on probably 4 different boats that I've redone. I've never had an issue with one. They're cheap, they're easy, and I mean they're cheap as price-wise. They're easy just because you drill the same 1-inch hole. I'll put a link to this right here on Amazon where you can click on it to look at it and maybe order you one. But this uses a standard 1-inch hole. The way these work, you go ahead and drill your 1-inch hole like you normally do. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a minute. But you see this lip right here, that's 1 inch. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap right here, which is perfect because what you do is you stick this through the hole. After you get it drilled, you stick it through the hole, you mark it. Once you mark it, you cut it off 1/8 inch shorter than what you mark. So since you put it through, mark the back side of it, cut it 1/8 inch shorter. The reason why you cut it 1/8 inch shorter, this part right here, again, this is 1 inch exactly. So you got a little bit of a void here. That's perfect because you can fill that void with sealant, 5200 or some sort of caulk. Me personally, I use it's almost like a gutter sealer like you use on cars. It keeps its rubbery feel, but it actually cures to like a hard rubber where it's still a little bit flexible, but you can't get it out. But once you get those 2 pieces on there, it's a simple thing. You just take this right here. Once you get it on, you line it up, smack it with a hammer, press on both sides. It's got these little rings that lock it in place. Once it's locked in place, you can't pull it back apart. Works real easy, and like I say, it's really user friendly. Let me show you how we do it. All right, first thing I've done, I went ahead and marked the center right here. The next thing you want to do is drill your pilot hole through it to make sure that it looks good on the inside. The biggest mistake people will make is they'll try to drill and they'll drill and they'll hold their drill level like this. You don't want it level. You want it square with the surface of this. You want the surface of this and the surface of this to match perfectly like that. You don't want to come in, well, I can't do it with this here. You don't want it coming in with one edge of this hole saw touching and the other edge not. That means you're going in an angle, left or right, up or down. Right now, you can see I'm touching the surface all the way around. So I've got the drill exactly in the shape it needs to be in. I put a little bit longer bit in it. I can see where the bit come out on the other side. So right now, I'm perfectly lined up. It should be real easy to drill this hole. Like I say, take your time. As long as you take your time, you'll get a nice, clean, smooth hole. Alright, the hole's drilled all the way through, and as you can see, I took my time. I didn't get no big hurry. The only thing that slowed me down a lot was the fact this is a piece of 1/4 inch aluminum. So, of course, that bit kept gumming up, but that's okay. Run it when you feel that it starts to wobble. Pull it out, clean the teeth off, because all that happens is those aluminum flakes get stuck on the teeth. Once you knock those flakes out of them teeth, it starts cutting true again. Hole wound up being exactly where I want it. Right there is the bottom of my, or the top of my transom. It's the bottom of the hole. So 90% of the water will be able to get out of here. And here's the thing. You put it in, you can see once you get it in there, it's a nice snug fit, but you got a little clearance around this part of it. That way you can get plenty of sealant in there around it. But all you do, you pop it in, mark it, cut it 1/8 inch shorter. So I'll mark that, cut it 1/8 inch shorter, and that gives you room to slide your other piece on and hammer it to where it's tight. Like I say, really simple to put in. Alright, after you drill a hole, you can see it's working out perfect right there. After you drill the hole, mark it. I'm marking it all the way around just so I know I can see it. It's a nice square hole. Now, it's a nice square cut. Now, you can see, all I want to do now is cut that 1/8 of an inch. Just 1/8 of an inch shorter than that right there. And then you put your sealant in the hole and then you drive it in. Really simple. Okay, there we go. I went ahead and I had a mark around it. I've cut it off now. After you cut it off, just make sure you clean it up real good because these things got little tiny ripples on it. And that's what locks the other piece on it. As you can see from right here, I'm about 1/8 inch below the surface, and that's perfect. So now all I got left to do is fill this hole with a good sealant, put the sealant around this right here, put it in, and snap the piece on it. It really is that simple. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put my sealer on here. Like I say, this is a high-end sealer that they use for gutters on cars and the sealed body panels on cars. It's just some that I had here already, so it wasn't no use buying anything else. But literally, you just stick it in the hole. I like to turn anything that I put sealer on. You stick it in the hole, push it all the way in. Once it's all the way in, you take this part right here, you just put it on the outside, you snap it over the rings, and you're done. Alright, you can see how it's just inside the surface of the hole right here. Right there. I'll go ahead and put a little bit more sealer on that, and I'll snap this in. You don't need to put it on the inside of it. All you need is on the outside of the tube where it seals to the boat. Then after it cures, I'll wipe all the excess off. Literally, you just slide it in there, you find the other tube. Alright, it's starting to lock. Once it starts to lock, you just hammer it in with a hammer. See, the rings are starting to snap. There you go. It's done. It's locked in there. It ain't never coming out. Now I'll just clean the rest of this old sealer off from around it, and we're done. Alright, as you can see, it's a pretty simple thing to do. Altogether, it took about 15 minutes, and the problem with that is about 10 minutes of me just trying to find my bit that I used to drill the hole through. Like I say, just take your time, drill a nice clean hole, and it's really a simple installation. Everything's done. After it dries a little bit, I'll just cut that little bit of sealer that's sticking out from around it, but it's finished. Now we're ready to move on and go ahead and bolt this splash well in. I appreciate you watching like I always do, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thank you.